Welcome to Sea of Thieves, one of the most fun and unique multiplayer experiences ever made. Also, where the lengthy tutorial teaches you basically nothing. With the Big Monkey Island updates on the horizon, you're going to want to brush up. There's so much that you have to learn on the job with this game. I'm just going to get straight into the most important things for a day one player starting in 2023. Feel free to check out my PvP tips 47 video playlist in the description for more short, to-the-point guides. Okay, here we go. Now, I'll be focusing mostly on PvP, as PvE is pretty straightforward. Do voyages, go to world events, kill skeletons, collect loot, turn it in. Rinse and repeat. When you hit level 50 in 3 factions, you can become a pirate legend, which basically just nets you some extra cosmetics and a handful of new voyages. What you really need to know is the bottomless well of PvP know-how and game sense. Above all, remember the golden rule of Sea of Thieves. You are consenting to PvP just by downloading this game. You can be attacked for any reason at almost any time by anyone. It doesn't matter if you have loot or not, it's just the nature of the game. Any loot you collect isn't actually yours until you've successfully turned it in. Now that that's out of the way, all character hitboxes are the same size, so feel free to choose whatever pirate type speaks to you the most. Before proceeding, I'll quickly say this game is meant to be played in a crew, and there is open matchmaking, which can be hit or miss. That being said, playing solo is viable, but it is the more difficult way to play and requires much more patience. Even so, many players, myself included, play solo exclusively. These are known as solo sloopers. If you want to see what that's like, I'm live every weekday and most weekends on twitch.tv/blurbs, so feel free to come stop by. Once you get in game, there's a couple settings you're going to want to adjust. Make sure your FOV is maxed at 90, otherwise you'll be at a major disadvantage. Double check your keybinds. Your food keybind is the most important to be easily accessible. If possible, you'll also want a keybind for planks in your bucket. If on controller, you want to increase your sensitivity and rebind your jump to something that won't take your hands off the analog sticks. I recommend rebinding jump to RB and your food to A. For weapons, I'd recommend starting with sword and pistol or sword and blunderbuss. Blunderbuss is a good choice for fighting pirates up close, but if you fall into the water, you're kind of screwed. Pistol is a good alternative that is reliable at close/mid-range. Sniper is often used to quickscope and quick swap with blunderbuss to 2-tap people. This is called double gunning and is an advanced playstyle. Always make sure that you are above 70% health, otherwise the sniper can one-shot you. Seriously, do not forget to heal. Now, sword has a lot of tech to it, but just to sum up, the sword attacks in bursts of 3, so don't forget to block incoming sword swipes. If you jump in a direction while blocking, you can move through enemy players to get around them. Holding attack will do a powerful lunge move, but you will be stunned if you miss the enemy. Always hold block before and during lunging so you can move faster while it's charging. This also allows you to jump right after the lunge activates to do a long lunge jump, which will give you a boost into water. Before leaving the outpost, you need to make sure you gather supplies from barrels laying around. This will ensure you're supplied up with cannons, planks, and fruit. Fruit heals different amounts of health. From lowest to highest, it's bananas, coconuts, pomegranates, mangoes, and then pineapples. You can cook fish and meat on the stove in your ship, which will also heal you, and provide overheal, which heals missing health over time. Just make sure you don't burn something on the stove or your ship will catch fire. You can switch between all your food by hitting your food keybind multiple times. If you have spare gold, you can buy supplies straight from the merchant on the dock, or even just a storage crate that makes gathering supplies infinitely faster. If you can ever get enough gold, you can actually buy your own ship. This is called captaincy, and among other things, allows you to save your ship cosmetics, buy extra supplies, and even turn in all your loot to a single spot at the Sovereign Tower. Once you've set sail, the number one rule is do not anchor your ship unless you're trying to do an anchor turn, and even then, raise it back up immediately. If you need to stop somewhere, just raise your sails all the way up ahead of time and slowly come to a stop. This way you won't be stuck if an enemy ship pulls up on you. Make sure your sails are always maintained properly. Always turn the sails to catch the wind as best they can, unless you're going directly head on into the wind. In that case, you'll want the sails facing straight forward. It doesn't really make any sense, but that's just how the game works. The one outlier is the sloop, which should always have the sails facing straight forward if it can't catch the wind at full billow. When shooting cannonballs, use each shot to line up your next one. It sounds obvious, but make sure you pay attention to where each shot lands and then readjust accordingly. Try to hit the lower decks of an enemy ship to make them take on more water. You can also aim for the enemy cannon to prevent them from shooting back. There are different types of cannonballs, primarily chain shots and cursed cannonballs. Chain shots can break parts of an enemy ship and are actually heavier, so they need to be aimed slightly higher than normal cannonballs. Mostly you'll want to use these to knock down an enemy mass so they can't move. This is how you're going to want to open most fights. It's worth noting that all mass fall down after just one shot, except sloops, which take 2 shots. Ship parts can also be damaged by normal cannonballs, but less efficiently. Now, curse balls apply various special effects to enemies, green affecting players and purple affecting ships. These can be used at opportune moments to change the tide of a battle. Blunderbombs and firebombs are special. They can be used by hand or by cannon. Firebombs are good for burning bigger ships like galleons, especially when they're immobilized. Blunderbombs are one of the best weapons in the game. They can be used to keep enemies away, do major damage in water, or even prevent people from fixing their ship. So when steering, you always want to have your cannons aimed at the enemy ship without them being able to aim at you. Typically, your goal is to circle behind and around them as you shoot. If they're immobilized, you'll want to do what's called a death spiral and circle around their boat, laying down heavy damage. To make a perfect circle, you'll usually want to match the percent you've spun the wheel with the percent you raise the sails. So if the wheel is half turned, raise sails by half, etc. Also, don't ram other boats on purpose. It's not a good idea, I promise. Don't forget to keep your ship repaired and bucket water out. Be sure to repair lower holes first. If your ship is seconds away from sinking, you'll hear a heavy death groan. You'll also want to protect yourself from boarders. When someone tries to board you, you'll hear a number of sound cues. They might shoot themselves out of a cannon, which will make a whistling sound. Then you'll hear a mermaid pop up, the sound of swimming, and then most importantly, a telltale splash when they grab your ladder. You'll need to listen for this noise at all times. If someone is boarding your ship, you can either chop them off the ladder with your sword, blunderbuss them right as their climbing animation ends, or blunderbomb them off. The strategy to sink an enemy ship is this. Immobilize them either by anchoring or knocking their mast down, shoot lower holes, shoot yourself over and board their ship, then camp them until their boat sinks. Congrats, you've sunk your first ship. Before you get too excited, have you noticed this cute little hourglass on your captain's table? Yeah, don't vote for that just yet. That's the PvP matchmaking mode, which is significantly more difficult than fighting randoms across the sea. It's supposed to match you based on skill, but there isn't always enough players queued, so you often will be mismatched with mega sweats. However, this mode is how you acquire arguably the coolest cosmetics in the game, the Athena Blessing and Skeleton Curse. You must reach rank 100 in the respective faction to earn these. In Sea of Thieves, there are flags known as emissaries. You can unlock these for each main faction at a certain level for a one-time fee. Afterwards, you can fly and level up this flag by collecting treasure for that faction. As your rank increases, so does your multiplier for rep and gold from that faction. It maxes out at a 2.5 times at rank 5. In exchange for this increased gold and rep, you're a juicy target for PvPers and the Reaper faction. The Reaper emissary flag ranks up by collecting loot from all factions, and once at rank 5, the Reaper emissary can see all other emissaries on the map in real time in order to hunt them down. Don't worry though, Reapers are always marked on the map at all times, so keep a close eye on any around you and if they are headed your way. It's slightly confusing, but there's also Reaper chests, high value items marked on the map at all times, and the Reaper's Mark. The Reaper's Mark is the super cool looking red flag in your flag box that will mark you for PvP anywhere you go. Funnily enough, it's strictly used by new players who don't know what it does. Lastly, a couple extra notes. You can get the free hide emote in the Emporium above the purple Order of Souls tint. Under the Pirate tab, find the hide and sneak bundle and it should be in there. This emote lets you curl up into a little ball, but more importantly, hides your nameplate from other players, letting you stow away on their ships. If you're looking for action, the two busiest world events are the Fort of the Damned, a player-activated event marked by a skull with red eyes, and the Fort of Fortune, marked by a skull with bright red eyes, nose, and a crack in the forehead. The latter currently contains the Chest of Fortune, one of the most valuable chests in the game. This chest, however, will move after the end of Season 9. And finally, for God's sake, don't keep kegs on your ship. It's just not worth it. Thanks for watching. Sorry, fellas.